I still remember the day. I had persuaded a young woman to accompany me to a school dance. She was the shy type and seemed quite reluctant, but finally caved into my charms and salesmanship. Or maybe she was just too shy to say no. I'm not really sure. Since this was the pre-driving days, I waited for her in the festively decorated gym and waited and waited and waited. Yes, it was one of those teenage moments that make the rest of life seem so calm by comparison. I had been stood up. Now, over 60 years later, it has happened again. I jumped out of bed at 5 a.m. this morning. Oh, wait. No, no, no. I managed to get out of bed and stumble to my studio at 5 a.m. I needed to listen to the video, take notes, and then get Larry Goldberg on Zoom at 6 o'clock, his only available time before much later in the afternoon. But alas, Cathie Wood stood me up. It brought back all the memories. Once before, when the job numbers came out on the first, Cathie didn't do her show until a week later. Maybe that's what happened again. I don't know. If she posted the video later today, if she does post the video later today, then of course Larry and I will do the show later today. Otherwise, we'll do it next week. But oh, Cathie, how could you do it? Well, then as now, however, one must remount the horse and charge forward. I spent that time listening to the All In podcast, another review by the funny boys from Throttle House on the Cybertruck, and also doing a deep dive on the details of inflation and the current status of the commodities market. You'd think I'd have something better to do with the Saturday morning. Anyway, somewhere in there, I also managed breakfast and a perusal of the news. My goal in this episode will be to take a quick look back at this last week, which was monumental in so many ways. It's hard to even keep all of it in mind about the stuff that took place. So, for instance, that All In podcast spent 20 minutes just on the compensation package. So I'll talk about that for a minute. We've got the Cybertruck good and bad, the incredible reviews of the Model 3 Plus and what that means, the facts and rumors around production and sales at Tesla, the reasons why Tesla is down $50 a month, $50, I'm sorry, over the last month, and what happens next about that stock price. Anyway, and then we got the Fed. We have inflation or maybe deflation and the roaring economy, maybe. Anyway, this is Randy Kirk. If you like what we do on this channel, please hit like, please hit subscribe, please hit notify, and then, buy a Cybertruck bottle opener. You know you want one, and they've sold so well. And then all of a sudden, just a few here and there. And by the way, join Patreon. We've got Conrad S. joined up yesterday. Thank you, Conrad S., for helping to produce the show. And and then coming up this afternoon, maybe it'll be Larry Goldberg. I doubt it. And then probably it will be the news, which I always do on Saturday when nobody else does, the Tesla news. That'll be much later on today. I might also do one other show in the middle of the day. We'll see. All right, let's start with some slightly negative stuff. I've watched enough Cybertruck videos to know that there are a couple of things Tesla needs to figure out on the Cybertruck. So let's not kid ourselves. Sharp edges are not okay. A power trunk lid should have a sensor that stops that lid from decapitating carrots or human digits. The windows do this. My garage door does this. It seems like a trunk lid can do this. There's other sharp edges on the doors as well. These issues need to be dealt with. They're getting a lot of press, and this could hurt sales. And it could hurt people. There's always that. The Cybertruck doesn't have a rear view mirror when the funnel cover is closed. And in this Throttle House video, is driving in the rain at night, and the rear view camera is completely useless. If the camera is all you got, it's got to be really, really good 100% of the time. So this has got to be dealt with. Other than that, I'm not convinced that the other issues that they had with road noise and rattles, I'm not sure they're right about these things, since other videos have said that the interior ride was really, really good, very quiet. Nobody mentioned the rattles. and everybody talked about the amazing sound system. So I'm not sure about the rest of it, but these guys are always funny to watch. So you might run over to Throttle House and watch their crazy video. Okay, then let's got this part too. We got the verdict is in, and the Delaware judge who threw out Elon's package is found guilty of overreach. She's found guilty of anti-capitalistic behavior, of being un-American, probably corrupt, and generally sad excuse for a human being. At least that's what you'd think if you read X. And by the way, I'm not sure, I don't agree. Anyway, that's a double negative. I never do that. Anyway, I did an extensive video earlier this week listing my objections to the decision, not the least of which was how weird it was to have a judge find exclusively for one side or the other in 100% of the dispositive issues that she found her decision on. No, I went down the list. There was like 10 issues that she said were critical to this case. Every single time she said that the defense had not done their job. Every single time she found that the plaintiff was right, that the stockholders have been screwed in that particular situation. It doesn't work that way. Usually judges, if they're not predisposed in one way or the other, will find, oh, well, on this one, I think the plaintiff was wrong, but over here, 3, 4, and 5, nope, they were right. No, the judge didn't do her job. Not only did she not do her job in that regard, her remedy was excessive, and her excuse was that she didn't come up with a better remedy is that she didn't know what fair sounds like. That sounds like a recent Supreme Court nominee who didn't know how to define a woman, a word which appears millions of times in the law. What is happening in our law schools? Has DEI training taken precedence over wisdom? No, this woman, it's her job is to decide what's fair. If she's going to say this is not fair, then she has to come up with a fair solution, not throw out the package, because now we have the question of what happens next with Elon. That's making the rounds, and massive issues with regard to taxation, issues with regard to the bookkeeping, issues with regard to fairness for Elon and fairness to the stockholders now when we are dealing with an issue that is 8 years ago. This pay package was set up 8 years ago. This lawsuit was filed 6 years ago. I mean, this is craziness. She has failed on every single level, and this judge should have contemplated. She should have potentially contemplated the likely outcome of her decision in terms of the impact on the very shareholders that she was supposedly protecting. We are the big losers in this case, and I'm hoping that this case is appealed. I'm hoping that the appeal is victorious, and what I'm really hoping is that the attorneys get no money from this effort. And I'm so glad I can look back on my entire career and realize that I made the decision wisely to never actually become an attorney, a thing that my degree would have bestowed on me. But I'm glad that I'm just a graduate of law school and not an actual attorney. The U.S. bar is a huge mess, and power and money was the issue then, the reason I decided not to become a lawyer, and it is the issue today, even worse. Okay, on another subject, the Model 3 Plus has been described as the easiest BEV to recommend. It is being almost described as almost as good as a Model S, and that was just from Brownlee. Brownlee, I think that's his name. I'm forgetting right now. Anyway, I think that's correct. Other people have said it has a sound system that is better than most or almost all serious luxury cars, and being fantastic through and through. The ride, the quietness of the interior, the new screen in the back, the leg room. I mean, they just go on and on. The comfortable seats. People go on and on and on about how good this Model 3 is. It sells for $35,990. And that's without the $7,500 because it doesn't qualify for the $7,500. No, this is the sticker price is $35,990. The lease is only $329 a month. If you save $100 a month on gas, you're down to $229. And that doesn't count what you might be saving. Well, you will be saving in terms of maintenance, upkeep, and all the rest. You could be under $200 a month easily in terms of your actual out-of-pocket on a lease. but you could buy it again for $35,990. That is a crazy low price compared to anything that you could reasonably call competition. Well, due to the craziness around the IRA, the Model Y costs less than a Model 3. It's $32,990 after the IRA incentive. The lease is still actually a bit higher at $379. But are you ready for that? After the incentive, you can buy a Model Y, the base model, for $32,990. I don't know. It seems to me that these should be flying off of the shelf, so to speak. I don't personally believe that the sticker price or the monthly payment, whether purchased or leased, is slowing down sales anymore. I just don't believe it. Sorry. Way below the average price of all vehicles, way below the price of the equivalent, so-called equivalent cars from the ICE side of the aisle. It is time to tell my cousins in St. Louis about these prices. We know about the prices pretty much in California, and 20-something% of the population are buying BEVs now in California. It's like 3% in St. Louis. It's time to advertise. Come on, Elon, you need to give advertising a try. And yes, I'm all about this kind of advertising you're doing now, going in with the YouTube videos and whatnot, where you can really control it and really get very, very high evidence of what your dollar is actually getting you. But no, you need to go big time. It's time to go big time. So on this kind of on the same subject, but a little bit different, what about production and sales? Well, January appears to come in about as expected, a minor bump up from last January. We don't do minor bump ups at Tesla. It's supposed to be 50% a year. And we'll likely see a final number for Q1 of about 500,000 plus or minus. Again, it'd be a minor bump up for the whole quarter. It's not good. So to my point, the Model Y and 3 should be selling so well that Tesla should be bumping up against the stated capacities in Austin and Berlin. Advertising. Instead, we have a feel-good post about the sales in Berlin reaching 6,000 cars in 1 week, but the capacity is 7,000. The stated capacity is 7,000, and Elon said that it's supposed to be able to do 10,000. We have Austin at less than half of its 10,000 per week stated capacity. So at this point, I have to turn the responsibility on this side of it over to Elon, okay? I think you are amazing, Elon. I've written books about how amazing you are. However, you are missing it right now. You have unused capacity, and it's time to find a way. Time to find a way. I would not accept this from my sales department in the companies that I've run. They wouldn't be able to come in and say, oh, interest rates, and oh, it's Tuesday. Oh, I don't know. It's the economy's bad. Oh, my buyers just say that. No, I didn't accept the excuses. I'm not accepting your excuses now, Elon. It is time to find a way. As noted, I put out a list of why Tesla is down $50 in 30 days. You think I've just stated part of it right there? Well, I called it that article, I called it drip, drip, drip. There's lots of negatives right now, just dripping and dripping and dripping. There's no mainstream media coverage of the positives like the Cybertruck and the Optimus. There's Elon's compensation package, which got massive mainstream coverage, calling it in a ripoff. The compensation package was a horrible thing that was done to shareholders, which was absolute junk, because if you look at the same mainstream media publications back when the compensation plan was put in place, it said that Elon would never make it. There wasn't a chance in the world. And that's what everybody thought. But what else is going on here? We've got that compensation package, drip, drip, drip. We've got no guidance from the earnings call, drip, drip, drip. You got so many other amazing stocks going crazy right now. So people have other places to put their money. So what's happening? Those in the margin, those people that are not crazy fanboys, those people that are not thinking 10 years out, those people are looking around and they're going, hey, I think I could trim some of my holdings, or maybe I'm exiting entirely from Tesla for good or just for a time. And I can't blame them. Although some of it isn't Tesla's fault, Some is, Elon. Time to take action. Well, there is a cure. Start overperforming expectations. Get the order book filled up and fire up those factories. Get the 4680 humming along. The stock market is going to be looking for execution, not promises of future greatness. Their promises were working when you were executing at 50% a year. Then you can say we're going to keep executing at 50% a year. But when you're executing and it's looking like it's going to be 12% or 15% increase, no, they've lost faith in your promises for next year. You need to start executing now. No excuses. Well, turning to the economy, it seems to be in pretty good shape. But there are continued warning signals. As noted, I spent a huge amount of time on Deflation's site this morning. Almost every aspect of the economy. I think there's 12 sections and 10 of them are seeing prices drop and drop fast. And about 5 or 6 of those 12 are actually in deflation at this point. They are in negative territory. Residential owned homes is one exception. It is high. Tobacco and personal items are still up, but almost everything else is under 2%, with about 5 of those going into deflation. Well, then I looked up the commodities just to see what was happening there. And I went, and again, there's about 25 or 30 of those listed. I went through them one at a time. If you take out the cocos, you take out sugar, and you take out OJ, pretty much everything else is even with last January or down from last January. Almost everything is trending lower. Even the ones that are up are trending lower. Cocoa is an exception. That's continuing. I think sugar, maybe all 3 of those are not really topping off or coming down much yet. But other than that, bellwethers like copper, everything is down. Strong dollar has something to do with that, but not all of it. Part of it is just either oversupply or lack of demand. Econ 101. I don't see that the strong economy is going to be able to pick up that slack. So I predict that the Fed will not act in March, even with more and more evidence of inflation heading towards zero and into deflation. I think this deflation is more a factor of productivity. I spent some time on that yesterday. I might spend more time on that today or tomorrow. I really want to do and kind of an essay on productivity. We'll see whether that happens or not. But it's more about the productivity, huge productivity numbers. Those are very strong. It's more about that than lack of demand. A lot of that productivity is coming from how much better that employers are using labor. Again, I did an in-depth video last night about the labor stats. That shows a 0.5 reduced hours per week over the last year. That's huge. A half an hour a week is a big number. And that is replacing a lot of potential laborers that would be when you're saying that you have increase in people, but you have decrease in hours, you can see where there's a balance there. Employers are getting much smarter about this part of the economy. They're also hiring a lot of part-timers. Almost 100% of the gains were in part-timers, and it was completely offset by reduction in the number of full-timers. All of that's in last night's video. You might want to take a look at that. So employers have to get smarter about their labor. They were not smart at all. Well, they had no choice. What were they going to do? There was no laborers to be had. But now that there's starting to become plenty of labor out there and more choices are available, what you're seeing is a smarter use of the labor. And they have to, because there's really significant downward pressure on prices. Okay, I think the Fed will act too late. We will go right back to zero interest rates, and inflation will be at zero, maybe even deflation. And you know what? That's not a bad scenario, as long as the deflation is based on productivity and as long as we don't get into a deflation mindset. You don't want an inflation mindset and you don't want a deflation mindset. In a deflation mindset, people start going, oh, I'll wait for the prices to come down. That's not a good thing. You don't want people waiting like kind of they might have been doing with Tesla last year. Some people might have been putting off the purchase, waiting for the prices to go down. Anyway, in a general economy, if people start waiting for the prices to go down, then they don't buy that item now. The factory doesn't need to make the item now. They need to lay people off. Now you have less workers in the economy. You have less wages being produced. You have less, everything slows down and you go into a recession. All right. If you missed that deep dive into the employment stats, I'll put that card up right here. Cathie, last time I looked about 20 minutes ago, Cathie is still not out with her report. So later today, I'll just have the Tesla news and possibly that essay on productivity. We'll see what happens. Anyway, as always, it has been amazing, just incredible. Oh, did you join Patreon? Do that, would you? It's been great talking to you.